Hello, and thank you for joining us at Coalesce. It's been an amazing day so far. I'm still recovering from that keynote. My name is Bar. I'm a product manager here at DBT Labs. I'll be the host of this session, DBT V1.0 Reveal, presented by my good friend and colleague, Jeremy Cohen, lovingly known as Jerko. First, some housekeeping. All the chat conversation is taking place in the Coalesce DBT Reveal channel of DBT Slack. If you're not part of the chat, you have time to join right now. Visit our Slack community and search for Coalesce DBT Reveal when you enter the space. So why is this a reveal? It's been 5 years, and Jeremy is going to offer a highlight reel of the biggest changes included in the launch of DBT V1. Jeremy has been at DBT Labs since January 2018 as the second debatable junior data analyst. He discovered the power of using DBT to rapidly stand up analytics projects, refactor legacy code, replace outdated infrastructure. DBT Labs has gone through some major transformations, pun intended, from being a consulting shop called Fishtown Analytics to now a product serving some of the largest and most complex organizations. As DBT Labs transitioned into its current incarnation, Jeremy also transitioned from client-facing analytics engineer to a community-facing product manager, maintaining DBT core and charting the course for its future. Now DBT is turning 1.0 today, and Jerko is turning 1 year older tomorrow. If you have any wishes for Jeremy in his new year of life, you can throw them in. We would not be here today without the incredible community. So many of you are to thank for your contributions to DBT Core and to each other. Many of you have also interacted with Jerko. Hi, Jerko. And you know how thoughtful he is. I'll often stumble upon a GitHub issue to see Jeremy's incredibly thoughtful, nuanced, and future-facing multi-paragraph comments. He has a way with words and languages, not just English and GitHub issues, YAML, ancient Greek, Latin, R, French, all the regular stuff. He's dialing in from his new home in France. I'm excited for him to lift the curtain on major V1. It means major stability, commitments to every DBT user, easier and joyful upgrades. And I'm excited to hear, Jerko, you talk about what's going to make the cut, what didn't, and what comes next after 1.0. After the session, Jerko will be available in the Slack channel to answer your questions. And just as a reminder, this is not like an in-person event. You're not supposed to stay quiet. You can ask other attendees questions, ask Jeremy about France, make comments, or react at any point in the Slack channel. I'm going to stop talking. I can't wait to get it started, and I'm passing it over to you, Jeremy.
Thank you so much, Bar. Welcome, everyone, to the DBT Core 1.0 reveal. I'll be your host, your guide, your master of ceremonies, but really, this is your celebration. Bar said enough. I'll just say, I'm Jeremy, Jerko in Slack if you've seen me there. And I want to take us through the last 5 years, what exactly we mean when we say V1 of DBT Core, a little bit in this release, looking ahead in the short term and maybe even the longer term, no promises, and finally a chance for all of us to cut the ribbon and mark this momentous, ceremonious occasion. So, the last 5+ years, this is one way of looking at them. This is a chart that maybe some of you have seen before. It's weekly active projects for DBT running everywhere. It started way back in 2016 with a handful, maybe a couple dozen, and just the other day we passed the 8,000 mark. This is one way of looking at that metric, if you will. In this view, it looks monolithic. It looks inevitable. But really, it is a bunch of different DBTs running over that period of time, more than 20. And with each DBT along the way, there have been new features, new bug fixes, new approaches to the same underlying principal problem, the same viewpoint, the same approach, which now we call analytics engineering. I want to take us on a little bit of a stroll through memory lane, if you'll indulge me, even though some of this ancient history, apologies in advance to Mila and to any of my former classmates or professors who stumble upon this on the public internet later on. With each of the years, each of the periods, each of the eras that we're about to go through, I want you to shout out, call out, comment with what you remember from that time. Is that when you first came across DBT? Is that when you first typed DBT run into your command line? Let's do a little remembering together. Way back in 2016, it was the age of heroes, the age of myth. And not much was written down at this point of time, but a lot has been passed down to us through the oral tradition. And some of the most important stories, the most important topos and mythos that still exist in DBT today, this is their origin. DBT worked with Postgres and Redshift. We had models, we had tests, we had seeds, we had archives, we had multiple threads. We had just come out with incremental models. There were just under 30 weekly active projects. There wasn't a project with more than 100 models, and there were really 4 people contributing to the DBT core codebase. That brings us to 2017, the archaic period. This thing we have here, is it real? Is it going to stick around? This, again, quieter in the historical record, but we have some remnants through material culture, the addition of Snowflake, the addition of BigQuery, some rework, maybe, some innovation around macros, materializations, packages, even custom schemas for models, something that still trips up many folks as they're first getting started with DBT, but also one of its most powerful features, this configurability that it offers everyone. That brings us to 2018, the classical period, coming into our own. This is also when I arrived on the scene. We're starting to tell more compelling, more complex stories with DBT, the birth of tragedy and of comedy. This is also the year when, like our predecessors in classical Athens, who had an eponymous archon, and like the Romans, who named their years after the consul, we started naming our DBT versions after famous Philadelphians. So we had Betsy Ross, Isaac Asimov, Lucretia Mott, Guion Bluford, the addition of hub.getdbt.com, the addition of the docs site, real science fiction, the addition of the adapter cache, speed up DBT projects, that first big foray into performance at scale, because we now started seeing projects in hundreds and hundreds of models. 2019 was a building year, the early republic. There's work to be done. Grace Kelly, Stephen Girard, Wilt Chamberlain, Louisa May Alcott, faster DAGs, sources, the split apart of adapter plugins initially, Presto, Spark, and a first RPC server, a first cut at partial parsing, a first cut at structured logging. We hit over 1,000 weekly active projects. Last year, 2020, a golden age of DBT literature, flexing some muscle. What can't we do? Some things that are near and dear to my heart. The addition of the meta property by Taylor Murphy, community contributor, deserves a shout out. The addition of Jinja expressions everywhere. Some of you didn't know that you didn't used to be able to do that. And especially close to home for me, node selection, Slim CI, exposures all coming in 2018, Marian Anderson last year. More than 3,000 weekly active projects, more than 100 unique contributors to the DBT core open source code base. And we started to see some very big projects, unprecedentedly big. And we started to see interest in DBT that was also a bit unprecedented, which made 2021 a year of stable foundations. Pax dbtana. An era ends and another one begins. As we see weekly active projects go beyond 8,000, projects go beyond 2,500, 3,000 models strong, and the number of contributors go far into the triple digits. Most recently, this looked like the release of version 1.0, W.E.B. Du Bois. But following on the tail of work around metadata artifacts at the beginning of this year, tests and project parsing, the DBT build command and configs. All of this has built up to, in its final conclusion, we can truly say that we found DBT a CLI of brick and left it a framework of marble. All right, that's enough of ancient history. But I do want to test you, to give you a quick quiz, as with any quick history lesson. So there are 8,000 plus projects today that run DBT every single week, and the very oldest have been running since 2016. Half of those projects first ran DBT in this month or later. Now, this is just for fun. Feel free to thread up your guesses, but I actually do want to say whether you started using DBT 5 years ago or 1 week ago, it is very good to have you here. You're welcome. I want to borrow from what my colleague Jason Gann said yesterday in his amazing presentation about analytics engineering being everywhere very soon. We are still in the good early days, the good old days of analytics engineering. DBT 1.0 is an invitation to everyone. Thanks for those of you who have been along the way all along, and to those of you just joining. Answer, what is May 2021? Yes, earlier this very year, not that many months ago at all. I do hope you answered in the form of a question. Otherwise, unfortunately, we won't be able to count it. Another question. V1 of what exactly are we talking about? Let's start with V1. For those who aren't familiar, DBT core is versioned following the semantic versioning specification, or SEMVer for people who like to be cool and abbreviate things. Major version 0, that's what DBT core has been all this time, right? It's for initial development. Anything may change at any time. The public API should not be considered stable. Oh boy, we have big organizations, complex companies, lots and lots of folks banking their data stacks and their professional careers on DBT. So it was high time to release 1.0. Semantic versioning after 1.0, a lot more relieving. Once you're here, you've made it. There are some things that we are going to keep adding in new minor versions of DBT, and some very specific contracts, very specific interfaces that can have really clearly communicated and documented changes. But the code in your project, when you upgrade, is going to keep working. So for minor releases, but especially for patch releases with bug fixes, don't think, just upgrade. All right, we answered the V1 part, but V1 of what exactly? That gets us into what do we mean? When I say DBT V1, DBT core V1, DBT dash under lowercase c core V1. I hope you'll bear with me. I think it's a subtle but an important distinction. At the risk of doing one of these, let's get started. This is DBT. This is the platform undergirding the modern data stack, the practice of analytics engineering. I hope I'm not being too hyperbolic. It is everything around metadata, data transformation, testing, documentation, development, deployment, all of the above. This is a distinction that might be familiar to folks who have been coming to events like Staging over the last several months. This is basically the same slide that I showed back in February. DBT core, DBT cloud. There are pieces of DBT that are and always will be open source, because we think it's so important that all of your business logic lives in a framework that you can take with you, that you can see, that you can look at, that you can participate in. So compilation and execution, fully featured, deployment agnostic, DBT core will always be open. Then at the same time, there are incredibly compelling things that we want to do for the full platform, for the slide I just showed you, that want to happen, need to happen inside of a stateful, identity-aware, browser-based user experience, or I should say everywhere-based. That's DBT Cloud, most stable, reliable, and collaborative way to develop and deploy DBT projects. So if this distinction sits well with you, maybe this one is a little more mind-bending. What do I when I say there is DBT core and DBT core? DBT core, the Python package, is this. It's a code base. It's a pretty specific code base meant to accomplish a pretty specific thing. So in the broadest sense, if you'll bear with me for this, another metaphor, yes, one more. If analytics engineering is this healthy, growing young tree in the midst of the data ecosystem, and DBT is at its very heart, at its very trunk, if you will, where does DBT core fit in here? Where does DBT core, the Python package, take a cross section We've got DBT core in the very middle, DBT, the whole picture all around the outside. And between these circumscribed circles, there's one more, DBT core, the participatory possibility of everything that is open source code, maintained, developed, upgraded, put out with love by community members. So I think DBT space capital C core, DBT core, the realm of possibility, it looks a lot like this. It's got DBT core, the Python package, right in the middle, but there's a whole lot else going on all around. There's adapter plugins for databases that are maintained by DBT Labs, and lots of ones that are maintained by community members, by partner companies, even some new ones just in the past week. There's packages on the DBT Hub maintained by us and by community members and by partners and other companies. There's all of the metadata integrations, starting from DBT docs all the way even to projects like OpenLineage. There's new tools built on top of DBT, like Lightdash. There's all of the workflow optimizations that folks out there have put out because out of the goodness of their heart and because they've been part of this open source community, they've wanted to give back. So this is DBT core with the Python package at its center. And I think for DBT to be all that it can be, and in the broadest sense possible, we need something from DBT core, the Python package. We need V1, and we need it to be fast, we need it to be stable, we need it to be intuitive, extensible, and maintainable. Here's all of those same words on a pyramid. I hear people really like pyramids. This is a hierarchy of needs, if you will, and I think it's in the right order because if it's not fast, folks won't use it. If it's not stable, folks won't trust it and rely on it. If it's not intuitive, folks won't be able to get started and keep going. If it's not extensible, DBT won't be able to scale to meet the needs of some of the most complex organizations. And if it's not maintainable, we won't be able to scale to meet the needs of DBT. So these were our priorities this year leading up to 1.0. It means that while it was very tempting a year ago, even a year and a half ago, to ask the question, what should go, what should be part of DBT Core 1.0, it was very tempting to start here with some of the coolest, most exciting, most mind-bending ideas that an open source community could come up with. These are all still amazing ideas. These are still things that I really want to do. They're not the things that we prioritized for 1.0. That was things like this, because we needed stability, we needed maintainability, we needed things to be intuitive and fast and extensible. So what actually went into the release? What do you get right now by upgrading to V1? Okay, I hope you are with me when I say this is as much about the ceremony, about marking the occasion, as it is about the specific contents of the release. This is a mark of maturity. It's coming of age. It took a long time to get there, a lot of work leading up to it. I promised I wasn't going to talk about my own bar mitzvah here, but much like that, we had to study, we had to work, we had to make incremental steps on the way there, all the way from 019 through 021. And then in the final V1 release, we prioritize foundational improvements. So those same foundations I showed you earlier, DBT V1 is fast by default for everyone. Partial parsing is on and ready to go. The experimental parser is now our static parser, and it's on and ready to go. This translates to 100 times speed up in development for especially large projects compared to January 1st of this year. It's stable. We totally reworked structured logging from the ground up so that it is ready to be the necessary input for applications that want to be powered by DBT Core in real time. Real-time metadata and things like the new server that Drew mentioned earlier. It's intuitive. We finally renamed tests. They're not schema or data anymore. They're definitely not bespoke. And configs that work in the places you expect them to work. It's extensible. Global macros have been reorganized. They've also been made easier to re-implement. This, I think, has saved some folks a couple thousand lines of code, which is nothing to sneeze at. and it's maintainable. We split apart plugins for database adapters, the RPC server. The new server will also live separately from dbt core. We want core to be focused, and we want to lower the barriers to contribution in all of those other repositories. You shouldn't need a working BigQuery connection to contribute to the Redshift adapter. And in fact, we want to make contribution going forward as easy and as welcoming as possible. So that's foundations. That's great. Nice job, Jeremy. Boring stuff? No, there's some new stuff too. There's metrics. You just got to hear a whole lot about them. There's also extensions on existing functionality like result-based selection, being able to take a run that just failed with a couple of models with errors or tests with failures and pick just those to rerun. So artifact-based selection, dbt init has a whole new look and feel. I call out both of those with asterisks because the community and colleague contributions by folks who do not work on dbt core for their day job. Metrics I want to call out because we are going to be finding the balance in the future between this stable shared foundation and continuing to find new ways to innovate. I think a lot of that innovation is going to come in the ecosystem. It's going to come in that biggest concentric circle that is dbt, just in the ways Drew was showing you. It's going to come from other tools, open source and otherwise, that integrate with metrics now that they've been defined in dbt core. I'm excited for tools like Dash, like MetricQL, like all of the others that have already been built on top of dbt to make the most of what defining metrics in dbt code is going to offer. So that's what's in V1. What's in V1.01? V1.1. Going forward, patch releases are going to be bug fixes only. You don't even have to think about it. It's just 1.0. Latest fixes included. Minor releases are going to be, let's say, every 6 to 12 weeks. You can expect an official support period for minor versions that lasts for 1 year from the day of their release. So 1.0 was released on December 3rd, 2021. The end of its official support will be December 3rd of 2022. And we are going to keep putting out patch releases for critical fixes, security bugs, regressions, anything throughout the entirety of that time. I want upgrading to feel the way it should feel. Good. Your code still works. The packages you need are available and compatible. You always get the latest and greatest. In dbt Cloud, as I mentioned on the previous slide, it's just going to look like V1.0 latest. Get the fixes for free automatically. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't include a slide on it that had the words dbt v2 on it. I don't know. We've got some big ideas. And there are going to be things along the way that we need to rework. So in the same way that we're going to do a lot of net new stuff, we're going to keep innovating. We are also going to rework a lot of things behind the scenes, under the hood, to always give you the most stable foundation, to give analytics engineering and the modern data ecosystem the stable foundation that it deserves. So when's dbt core v2? This is process of elimination. Don't take my word for it absolutely. I don't think it's going to be next year. I don't think it's going to be another 5 years. So 2 to 4 years. And until then, there's plenty of good stuff to work on. There's all the ideas that I showed earlier in the screenshot of most commented, most reacted issues. I would especially encourage you to take a look at some of what's on this slide, some of what is in the link that I think Andrew is going to drop in the chat, which are to some GitHub discussions, a thing we're trying for the very first time. I want dbt to be able to do all of these things. But in some sense, this is still thinking pretty small. This is a pretty linear step from dbt as it works today. Let's think big. And to do that, we have to get in the right mood. You can close your eyes if you'd like. Listen to me. Throw some ideas out there. What if in dbt v2, dbt SQL had all the same capabilities as it does today. No Jinja. What if the docs were always ready? No separate command, docs generate, just the metadata available in all the ways you would expect. One dbt could run across many databases and query engines. Not just Redshift, not just BigQuery, but Redshift and Spark and Presto and who knows what else. What if you could define your own tasks for the dbt DAG? Another way to put this is, what if your run operations could do concurrency over threads, could use node selection syntax? I'm not saying any of these things are going to be. I'm not saying this is what dbt v2 is going to look like. There's a tremendous amount of possibility in our near and far future. With no further ado, except one very important thing, which is to give a massive shout out and thank you to the team of people who made this happen. This is the core team at dbt Labs, the engineering team that has rebuilt dbt core from the ground up. When I say it is now a framework of marvel, it is because of the capable and able hands of these people. We've got Kyle on bass guitar, we've got Gerda on drums, Nate on the keys, Ian on vocals, Emily on second guitar, maybe, Matt on, I'm running out of instruments, but that I really know, cajon, and then Leah, tour manager, the person who made it all happen over the last several months. Thank you, thank you, thank you to every single one of you. And to all of our colleagues at dbt Labs, and to any person, any community member who contributed a PR, opened an issue, asked a question, answered a question, wrote about your experience, helped some other person, some other lucky soul get started with dbt for the very first time. That is to say, every single one of you. Thank you. This is your celebration too.